Welcome to KMUZ Theatre Talk. I'm Ed Shopes.
I'm Ann McBride, and we're here on the first and third Fridays of the month to tell you all about what's happening in the Mid-Willamette Valley theater world.
On today's show, we'll talk with Karen McCarty from Pentacle Theatre about auditions for Ripcord coming up on January 27th.
We'll also hear about a new adaptation of The Great Gatsby at Albany Civic Theatre with director Lorianne Schmidt and actor Robert Henry.
But first, we'll cover all the fun new shows at theaters throughout the Mid-Willamette Valley. Anne, why don't you start us off with our Theatre Talk calendar?
Albany Civic Theatre at albanycivic.org. They are opening The Great Gatsby January 26th through February 10th, and we'll have an interview about that show with the show's director later in today's episode. Coming to ACT March 1st through 9th is Eclipsed, a play about the Magdalen Laundries in Ireland, directed by Charlotte Hedrick, Professor Emerita of Theater Arts at OSU.
Children's Educational Theater at cetsalem.org has opened online registrations for CET's 5-week summer theater experience for ages 8 through high school. Go to CET's website to avoid that last-minute rush to secure a spot for your kiddos.
Elsinore Theater at elsinoretheater.com for information about local events and touring shows on stage at the Elsinore. Go to their website and their Facebook page.
Gallery Theater at gallerytheater.org. The Most Massive Woman Wins, directed by Mary Smalley Acuff, runs at Gallery Theater in McMinnville, January 26th through 28th. It's a challenging, brutal, and hilarious show about 4 women of various shapes and sizes sitting in the waiting room of a liposuction clinic, and they explore their perceptions of body image. Parental discretion is advised for adult language and subject matter. That's followed by See How They Run, directed by Britt Block, February 9th through March 3rd. This British farce is set in a quiet vicarage where its characters rush headlong into humor and through lots of doors. It's filled with zany antics, mistaken identity, a small pack of vicars, one of whom is an escaped convict in hiding, and a sedate bishop who's shocked by all the goings-on. Be ready for a laughter-filled evening.
Kaiser Homegrown Theater at kaiserhomegrowntheater.org. They are producing Boeing, and that will open Kaiser Homegrown Theater's 2024 season on February 9th through 25th. This farce is about an American living in Paris who's engaged to 3 different flight attendants on different airlines. Bernard has their schedules set, so only one is with him at a time until it all goes wrong. Get your tickets at the Kaiser Homegrown Theater website. Auditions for 2 shows at Kaiser Homegrown Theater, Silent Sky by Lauren Gunderson and The Lifespan of a Fact by Jeremy Carrican and David Morrell and Gordon Farrell, are set for January 27th. See the Kaiser Homegrown Theater website for audition information.
The Majestic Theater in Corvallis is on Facebook at majestic.org. They're holding a preview of a new musical, Zazie Sings, by Fieli Matthias, and it comes to the Majestic Theater stage in Corvallis on February 9th and 10th. We'll have an interview with the playwright and actors from the show in our next episode of KMUZ Theatre Talk.
Pentacle Theatre at pentacletheatre.org. The first show of Pentacle Theatre's 70th anniversary season is one of Neil Simon's best comedies, Brighton Beach Memoirs, directed by Joe Dodge, and it plays through February 3rd. Ticket holders for the first weekend of performances that were canceled due to icy weather can exchange their tickets for a different night by calling 503-485-4300. Check out our KMUZ Theatre Talk podcast for our interview with Jo about how much this show means to her. And auditions for the modern comedy Ripcord by David Lindsay-Abair are January 27th at Pentacle Theatre. The casting call is for an ensemble of actors able to play 3 male presenting and 3 female presenting roles. For more info, go to pentacletheatre.org/auditions. Ripcord plays April 19th through May 1st. We'll talk with director Karen McCarty about auditions later in today's show. And Joe Dodge's acting workshop for actors 18 and older is at Pentacle Theatre's rehearsal studio in downtown Salem. Now's the time to sign up at tickets.pentacletheatre.org.
The Salem Playhouse at thesalemplayhouse.com also offers acting classes for both kids and adults, and they're held at Kaiser Homegrown Theatre, and adult classes at Chemeketa Community College. To sign up, go to thesalemplayhouse.com and click on the Classes tab.
Spotlight Community Theater at spotlightcommunitytheater.org. Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, adapted by Michael L. Vaca and directed by Shannon Rempel, plays February 8th through 18th at Spotlight Community Theater. That's followed May 9th through 19th by Much Ado Out West by Wade Bradford, also directed by Shannon Rempel.
On the college front, Corbin University at corbin.edu/theater-arts. Coming up in March, Corbin will stage Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose, based on the tales of Charles Perrault and the Brothers Grimm.
Western Oregon University at wou.edu/theater. They are doing Spring Awakening, and it runs February 29th through March 9th at Western. This coming-of-age rock musical with music by Duncan Sheik and book and lyrics by Stephen Sater is based on the 1891 play by Frank Wedekind. Set in late 19th century Germany, it tells the story of teenagers discovering their budding adolescent sexuality through a folk-infused alternative rock score. It's directed by Michael Phillips. And May 29th through June 1st, John Proctor is the Villain will be on stage at the Rice Auditorium. That's directed by Risa Fleming.
Willamette University at woutheater.com. Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind, 30 plays in 60 minutes by Greg Allen and directed by Jonathan Cole, plays February 15th through 25th at the Pelton Theater on Willamette's campus in Salem. The audience gets to pick which plays the actors will perform each evening. That's going to be a really fun time for both the audience and the actors. And that's followed by Brian Friel's Irish family masterwork, Dancing at Lunasa, directed by Susan Coramel, April 11th through 27th.
On the high school front, Dallas High School on Facebook at Dallas High School Thespians and Theater. They are doing The Wizard of Oz, February 22nd through 24th at 7 p.m. with a 2 p.m. matinee also on February 24th. See their Facebook page for show and ticket information.
McKay High School is on Facebook at McKay Thespians. Student-directed one-acts are on stage at McKay January 19th and 20th, and the spring musical at McKay will be Little Shop of Horrors, May 10th through 18th.
McNary High School on Facebook at Ken Collins Theater. The pop musical Mamma Mia is on stage at the Ken Collins Theater January 25th through February 3rd with music by ABBA, of course.
North Salem High School is on Facebook at NSHS Theater. Tuck Everlasting will be on stage at North April 11th through 20th. And then Sense and Sensibility plays May 23rd through 25th.
South Salem High School on Facebook at Saxon Drama. South Salem High's annual student-written, produced, and performed 24-hour theater short shows happens on January 20th. And the Alibis plays at South Salem High, February 29th through March 2nd.
At Sprague High School, Bye Bye Birdie is on stage February 22nd through March 2nd. And one acts happen at Sprague April 11th through 20th.
Staten High School on Facebook at Staten High School Theater. Staten's spring musical Mamma Mia happens March 1st through 3rd. ABBA strikes again.
And at West Salem High School on Facebook at West Salem Drama Department. The semester showcase is at West Salem, January 25th, followed by Improva Java on February 8th. And then the Shakespeare favorite Much Ado About Nothing is on stage at West Salem High, February 29th through March 2nd.
And that wraps up our KMUZ Theatre Talk calendar for plays around the Mid-Willamette Valley.
Coming up next, Ann and I talk with Karen McCarty from Pentacle Theatre about auditions for the upcoming show Ripcord. We'll be right back with more Theatre Talk.
We're talking with Karen McCarty about upcoming auditions for the play Ripcord at the Pentacle Theatre. Hi, Karen. Welcome to KMUZ Theatre Talk again.
Hi, and thank you for having me.
Hey, Karen, another David Lindsay-Abair, right?
Yes, another David Lindsay-Abair, my second one. He's my favorite author.
So why do you love his shows so much?
I think he has a lot of depth and humor that he puts into his shows. His shows are always well written. They have very, very good storylines, and I think that they resonate with a wide audience. I think everybody, when you watch a David Lindsay-Abair show, you can relate to the characters in the show and either see something in yourself in them or somebody you know, especially this one, Ripcord. I feel like people really will either see themselves in the characters or somebody they know.
Or say, that's my mother.
It's right, my mother, or there's some younger people in the show also. There's the two women that are living in the senior facility have children that are in the show, and then there's a gentleman that works at the facility in the show also. So I think, whether you're younger or older, you're either going to see yourself or somebody you know.
Karen, this play is called Ripcord, and as you mentioned, it centers on two women who are in a retirement center. Tell us about the title and give us a little summary of the plot.
Sure. So the plot is about, like you said, two women that are living in a senior facility. One of them doesn't want to have anybody else in her room, but she can't afford a private room. And she's kind of cantankerous, and the other one is really flighty and happy-go-lucky, and she really wants to be in this room because it has a beautiful view of the park, and she doesn't mind her roommate. So they end up kind of making bets with each other. So if one of them gets scared, then she has to give up her beautiful bed by the window, and if the other one is angry, then she has to move out of the room. So throughout the show, they are playing these gags on each other, and at first it's kind of funny, but then as you go along, everybody kind of sees what's happening, and so you're just wondering what's going to happen next and who's going to win this bet. And all along, their relationship with each other is building, and like I said, they have children, and their children end up visiting and getting involved in their lives also, or re-involved in their lives. One of them has not seen her son for 5 years, so they reconnect. The whole idea of Ripcord is about pulling the ripcord and just letting yourself go and look around and see your life. So that's kind of a play on words. There's some really, really fun things. I mean, I don't want to spoil all the things, but there's some really fun things that do happen in the play that will just kind of, I think, make people really laugh. But then there's also a lot of depth as the relationships build and they learn more about each other. And there's just you need to stay all the way to the end because the ending is just phenomenally beautiful. I just love this play so much because of that.
So you're obviously looking for actors that can play comedy and depth and feeling.
Yes, absolutely.
And what ages are they, and how big is the cast?
So there's the two women who are in their 70s to 80s. So two people that can play female presenting in their 70s to 80s. And then there's the daughter and son-in-law of one of the women. So there's a woman a person who can present as female in her 30s to 40s, and then her husband who can play in his 30s to 40s. And then there's the resident aide at the senior living facility, and he's younger. He's in his 20s to 30s. And then there's the son of the other woman, and he's a male presenting person who plays also in his 40s. The three children, the son, the daughter, and the son-in-law, play multiple characters. So there's a situation where everybody goes to a haunted house, and these children play the people that are in the haunted house. So, a clown and a woman who has a baby that the clown is coming to get the baby, and the zombie butler, etc.
That sounds like a really strange plot.
Well, it's the Scotty, who is the aide at the facility. Him and his friends have rented this warehouse to put together this haunted house, and he invites all of the people from the facility to come and enjoy the haunted house. So the two women, Abby and Marilyn, go to this haunted house, and it's what starts the whole, are you scared? Are you angry thing bet with them. But it's funny because it's meant to be kind of cheesy. They're not professional actors putting on a professional haunted house. It's just, your neighborhood kids getting together, putting on a haunted house. People come and have fun. It only costs $12 for the tickets, and it is cute.
Well, this sounds kind of like a new take on The Odd Couple, if you will.
Kind of, yeah, right. Like the two people that seem to have completely different personalities, but yet they build their relationship, and they have a mutual love for each other in the end. The only other thing I would say is if there's anybody that is interested in being part of my production team, I believe I'm still going to have some openings for backstage, costume crew, things like that. So I'm not only looking for actors, but I'm also looking to round out my production crew.
It all takes place at the Bristol Palace Senior Living Facility. The play is called Ripcord. Auditions are January 27th at the Pentacle Theatre on 52nd Avenue, about 6 miles west of downtown Salem on Highway 22. The casting call is for an ensemble of actors that can play 3 male presenting roles and 3 female presenting roles. There are 2 roles that are cast in their 70s and 80s, and the rest range in age from 20s to 40s. If you need additional information about that, you can find it on the Pentacle Theatre website at pentacletheatre.org. Auditions begin at 1 o'clock on January 27th. Karen McCarty is the director. Thank you so much for joining us here on KMUZ Theatre Talk, Karen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Well, Ed and Ann, it's always a pleasure to be on KMUZ, so thank you for having me.
Joining us in a moment for our next interview are director Lorianne Schmidt and actor Robert Henry from Albany Civic Theatre's production of The Great Gatsby. So stay with us for more KMUZ Theatre Talk.
We're talking here with Lorianne Schmidt, director, and Robert Henry, actor, about their production of The Great Gatsby, opening at Albany Civic Theatre January 26th and playing through February 10th. Welcome to Theatre Talk.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Robert, you've been a busy guy this year. I've seen you on stage in a couple of productions.
Yes, that is true. I had actually intended to take a little bit of a rest after the last one, but I ran into Lorianne and after a show one night, and well,
Here we are. So, Lorianne, this is a new adaptation of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which is a classic book, and several films have been made either straight from the book or based on the book. Lots of different films have kind of the same themes. Tell us a little bit about what attracted you to this production and the new adaptation.
I actually had this adaptation commissioned to coincide with the 100th anniversary of this wonderful story and tale. In anticipation of that, I asked my dear friend and Portland playwright, Maeve Z. O'Connor, to adapt this book for the stage.
I'm thinking about the Jazz Age and Prohibition. Is that exemplified in your play?
It really is. The drinking and the liquor are a vehicle for this show. It is a demonstration of Gatsby's wealth and excess in this jazz age, that he can not only afford liquor for all of his parties and enough for people he doesn't even know to get really sloshed, but also that he has the ability to get it, and also that sense of excess, that sense of forbidden taste that people are able to experience in his parties.
I think that's wonderful because it exemplifies the age. And it's very like some parties I went to in New York in the 80s where there was a lot of everything. And
right. Yeah.
And it's weird. People make moral choices based on what they're taking.
And the interesting thing here is that the person who who's playing Gatsby, Mark Wassam, made mention that he feels that Gatsby is this complex person of obsession and excessiveness and unbounded hope. And I think that three-legged stool is really borne out in this book and in this particular adaptation.
What really attracted you to this story, and why commission this book and not another?
One of the things that I really love about this book is really Daisy. And I feel like Daisy has been shortchanged in many different ways. And I know that if anybody's familiar with the stories of F. Scott Fitzgerald and his partner Zelda, this idea or concept of feminine characters being portrayed as strong people. And I feel like many of the adaptations and movies make Daisy out to be this victim.
And Daisy is Gatsby's former lover.
Yes. And hopeful future lover.
It doesn't end well, right?
Yeah, but interestingly enough, in the opening monologue, I think, Robert, you can say that line, it all turns out.
Gatsby turned out all right at the end.
Well, let's talk about your character, Robert. Nick Carraway is the narrator of this show. Tell us about Fitzgerald's reason for having a narrator.
Isn't that character based on F. Scott himself?
That was the idea that I got, was that it was loosely based on him.
Well, what's it like to stand in F. Scott Fitzgerald's shoes as the narrator of this story, playing the character of Nick Carraway, Robert?
This has been a real exciting challenge. I haven't had a lot of time on stage. I think the first time I ever set foot on a stage was back in 2016 with you, Ed. And so every subsequent show has been a little bit more challenging than the next. This one, really trying to bring to life this story that he's trying to tell through the eyes of a fairly unreliable and probably somewhat biased or witness to the whole thing. This has been a stretch, a real stretch for me, and I'm just really excited to bring this to the stage.
Well, you did a really fine turn in The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime at Pentacle Theatre this last season, where you played the father. What have you taken from that experience into this show?
That show really had me digging very deeply into the emotional depth of the character that I was playing. And this one, how do I want to put this? So I bounce between being the unemotional narrator and actually being a character in what's being played out. And so just being able to explore the roller coaster of emotions that happen with being kind of an unwitting participant initially, and being dragged into the whole drama between Gatsby and the Buchanans, and then becoming a willing participant, and then just all the emotions and the baggage that goes along with that has just been awesome. And Curious Incident, there was such a spectrum of emotions. There was joy, there was happiness, but there was a lot of anger and a lot of frustration, and having to bounce between all of those emotions inside of a scene, let alone a whole show, has really helped me in being able to talk to the audience about what's going on, and then step in and have a heated or a very heartfelt conversation with, say, Gatsby or Daisy.
I would like to talk about the other characters. Who is playing Daisy, and Lorianne, can you speak about Daisy? So much revolves around her.
Yeah, Daisy is an interesting character, and that's being played by Asia Cook. Asia is new to the ACT stage, and we're really excited to have her join us for this journey, because this, as I said before, this adaptation, I really wanted to work with a playwright who understood Daisy's conundrum, if you will, the expectations that people have of other people, and the expectations of success, and what defines success. And I think that the beauty of this adaptation and what Asia brings to this adaptation is this complexity, that Daisy is a very complex person, and she has a lot of complex emotions around her choices. And of course, we all make choices, and some are better than others. And I think that the telling line is when she describes her daughter, and she says, "The only thing I can hope for my daughter in this world is to be a pretty little fool." And in contrast, that she is not a fool and has suffered for it.
So you really want Daisy to be more of a moving force than she's been pictured previously, as someone who is, things are done to her, she doesn't do them.
Yes, and I think, I love the screen adaptations, and of course I grew up with the Mia Farrow and Robert Redford version.
Of course.
Every time Mia Farrow comes on stage, they put the little filter in front of the camera, and she's portrayed as kind of this bubble-headed girl, really, who, and I use that term intentionally, that things happen to, and she just goes along. And this particular adaptation is so beautiful because I feel like it really draws out F. Scott Fitzgerald's real depth to Daisy, and that Daisy has a lot of complex feelings around her life and her choices. And there's a lot of discussion that Daisy has in this particular version, that where she expresses herself and her feelings and her emotions around everything that has happened in her life and all the choices she's made.
That's wonderful because it's never been done before.
No, it hasn't. And the material is there. It just really took someone with that eye to be able to draw that out and shine a light on it.
Can you talk about the character of the Great Gatsby?
That's being played beautifully by Mark Wassam, and we have seen him before on stage. He played the jilting lover in Dancing at Lunasa, and I think, and he was also in Almost Maine at Pentacle, and has done shows at other theaters. And so it was wonderful to see him step into Gatsby and really show again this three-dimensional full character who is full of hope, but yet full of sadness. Mark brings a real passion to Gatsby that is refreshing.
Lorianne, can you talk about the costumes and the set? Because that's kind of a big thing.
There are 24 different settings in this show. And unlike those, one set shows, this one is really tricky. And it's kind of hard to strike the balance between a suggestion of a place and a time and really, really fleshing it out so that the audience feels immersed in that time and place. So it makes the set and dressings and costumes and everything so tricky because it can get complicated quickly. But thankfully, I have one of the best set designers I've worked with. They're just wonderful. And Jillian Alden is also my assistant director. And she brought up the use of, get ready for this Greek term, a periaktoi.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's a good idea.
It's an excellent idea because now you have 3 different sets of walls. So we and then expertly built by our set builder Jonathan McKay. The periaktoi is a 3-sided, rotating thing where you can rotate it to be different scenes, and we added fold out walls so that it covers the entire width of the stage here at ACT.
Wow.
And so we are able to really have Gatsby's house be ostentatious and over the top, excessively decorated.
That's really necessary.
It is. It really is. And then to have, the difference between the suite at the Plaza Hotel where, things happen, not to give too many spoilers, if folks haven't read the book. And also, the Buchanan's apartment, and it's more understated and more muted. And then, Nick's house, which is, very, rustic and quaint. And so we have these 3 different walls and then furniture to evoke that sense of the jazz age. And the costumes are amazing. Wonderful partnership of Karen McCarty and Julie Sugar down here in between Albany and Salem, and just really loving the costumes of party and wealth and money and just dripping with money. It's just so much fun to play. And we have supernumeraries in this particular show. We have about 8 or 9 folks who are going to join us each performance to really fill out Gatsby's parties. And we're very, very excited to invite extras into the show. It'll be fun.
All right. Well, this sounds like a really terrific production.
And we're very excited.
It sounds like a lot of fun. The Great Gatsby, a new adaptation by Maeve Z. O'Connor and directed by Lorianne Schmidt, is at Albany Civic Theatre in downtown Albany. Performances are January 26th through February 10th. You can get more information and get tickets at albanycivic.org. Thank you so much, Lorianne Schmidt, the director of the show, and Robert Henry, Break-a-Leg Robert, as your character, Nick Carraway.
Yes, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
It's time to wind up today's KMUZ Theatre Talk program. Thank you for joining us. Next week at 9 a.m., you can tune in to Talking About Art with Joel Zach. KMUZ Theatre Talk is a proud member of the Mid-Valley Theatre Network.
KMUZ Theatre Talk comes your way at 9 a.m. the first and third Friday of the month on your radio or smart speaker at 100.7 and 88.5 FM, and on your favorite radio app, or streaming live at kmuz.org. You can also listen to our KMUZ Theatre Talk programs anytime, wherever you get your podcasts.
Ed and I will return February 2nd with a brand new KMUZ Theatre Talk program. Meanwhile, check our Theatre Talk Facebook page for news and updates about live theater in the Mid-Willamette Valley.
If you haven't yet joined in to support Theatre Talk and the rest of KMUZ's great community radio programs, head on over to kmuz.org right now and click the Contribute button at the top of the page. And thanks. Until next time,
We'll see you in the front row.